Can you imagine your life where money is your friend, working with you to achieve all your dreams and desires? If you struggle seeing money as your friend, then join Kathy Cook-Noble, financial advisor and educator on understanding how your money can work for you. It is possible. Now, here is Financially Speaking with Kathy Cook-Noble.
Good afternoon and welcome to Financially Speaking on the Inspired Choices Network. Today, I am your host, and I'm also introducing our co-host, which is super exciting for me because it's one of my favorite people. And she's going to join us in a minute and talk a little bit about some youth investing, which I want to share with our listeners and share with our younger audience because we know how important that is. Now, in my world, as a financial advisor and with a bookkeeping business, I do all things financial and all things with numbers. I also know the magic of compound interest. And that's one of the magic pieces that Ashlee has learned. And what that really means is over time, interest makes interest makes interest. And that's where people get that term, money makes money. And it's 100% true. It's super easy to do. Everybody can understand it. I always will be a firm believer that everybody can understand their own stuff because there is no question in my mind that you can. The part that people get caught up and confused on is when they try and understand everybody else's stuff. And trying to understand the people on TV, and I'm going to use somebody like Warren Buffett because most people have probably heard of him. He's one of the richest men in the world. Jeff Bezos, arguably the richest man in the world. People hear them and about them and they look at that and they think they can't understand it. Well, they can't understand it either. They have a team of people. They have accountants. They have tax lawyers. They have all these specialists, financial advisors, and they have a team of people that work on their stuff. So you don't have to understand their stuff because they don't either. They have people that they pay to understand their stuff. And that's okay because that's the world they live in. And if you're not in that world, that's perfectly fine. What matters to you is what matters the most. So when I talk to people during the day or when I meet with them, it's really more important. The question I find that's the most important is what is it you want? And what do you want your finances to look like? What do you want your retirement to look like? What do you want your current situation to look like? Do you want travel? I know we can't right now, but we will. And when that opens up, is that something people like to do? Do they want to travel by plane? Do they want to travel by motorhome? Do they want to just take, weekends away and not travel too far away from home? These are all questions that once you know the answers to what you really, really want, then it makes it easy to understand your finances. And I always tell people two things. One, you can understand your own stuff. And absolutely. And the second thing is all you really need to do is track your cash. And that means how much money comes into your house and how much money goes out. And at the end of the day or at the end of the month, at the end of the week, wherever you're tracking it, do you have more money going in to the household or more money coming out of the household? And if more money is going out of your household, then that's when you need to make some adjustments. And it's that simple. So knowing what you have and where you're spending is usually shocking for a lot of people when they first start tracking their cash because they don't realize how much they spend on eating out. They don't realize how much they spend on coffees that they buy outside the home. And it does add up. It really does. So it always surprises me when I see it because they're always surprised at how much they're spending. Now, what we do here every Monday night, we get together and we talk about concepts like tracking your cash and understanding your finances and what's the difference between an RSP and a TFSA and why do we have all these acronyms in finance and what are they? And we've gone through those before. And the bottom line is we just try and make sure that people are comfortable with their own stuff because I truly believe you can do that. And that's really what the Inspired Choices Network is also about, empowering people to have their very best life and live their very best life in the way that they want to live it. So if there is an area in your life that you need a little bit of support with or a little bit of advice on, maybe it's in a relationship, maybe it's in parenting, maybe it's in training your pets, maybe it's in, a little bit of confusion on your business or starting a business or running a business, whatever the case is. There are some pretty fantastic hosts on the Inspired Choices Network that you can reach out to. They will get back to you. If you join them live, then you can talk to them in the chat room. If you are able to not able to join them live, then you can listen to the podcast on one of the 200 or more platforms that we're featured on after the live recording, and you may be able to reach out to them on our YouTube channel. You make comments, they always get back to you. I encourage you to reach out and talk to whoever it is that you would like to talk to. And if we happen to have a missing piece to the network and you think that that's an area that you know, then I would suggest you talk to Christine, the owner of the network, because she is great at helping people start their own show and share their expertise to the world. Because I can tell you, if you have a question about it, there's probably 10 other people you know that have a question. And don't forget that we also have an app, the Inspired Choices Network. It has a mobile app. You can download it in Apple or on Android, and you can listen to us live. You can join us in the chat room through the app. You can click on shows at the bottom of the image in the app. It's free. So there you go. There's no excuse not to join us on the Inspired Choices Network. And financially speaking, of course, you can join us here Monday nights. So super excited tonight because I have a very special guest. And I've had Ashlee on before, and I have said she is one of my favorite people, and it's 100% true. I think she's absolutely one of the most remarkable girls I've ever met, and I'm very happy that we've become friends. She's born in a small town of St. Thomas, actually, same city that I'm in Ontario. And from a very young age, she took an interest in business, finance, and investing, which is obviously super cool to me. And currently she is an undergrad at the University of Western Ontario, but not for long because she's just graduating. And she was studying psychology at the University of Western Ontario, and she's also studying criminology. She is moving on to do her master's degree in the fall of this year, which is awesome. And she's going to be focusing on the criminology side of her studies. Although her specialty is not in school in business and finance, she is also a very firm believer, like I am, in investing for the young people and educating yourself in the world of finance. Ashlee is an active volunteer in both St. Thomas and London communities, and she's dedicated to giving back to the community and advocating for those who are often marginalized in society. She is interested in reading, baking, and I can tell you she's a fantastic baker, hiking, and also of my favorite, listening to Financially Speaking. And now she's going to join us as a co-host. So we're going to have our youth investing advisor, which is so cool. So Ashlee, welcome back.
Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for that intro. That was lovely.
Well, it's all true. I am super excited to have been able to talk you into joining me here.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so glad you asked.
I think it's so important. And I know you and I have had these conversations before about investing, and it is fun. It really is, isn't it? It's not painful.
Yeah. No, not at all. It's great.
So we talked about the investing part of it in the past, and now when we had you on the show and we shared a little bit about we had you share, about investing and understanding at a young age and how you got involved and how you still love it, and which is cool. And now we're going to introduce a feature onto Financially Speaking, the show, where at least every quarter, we're going to have Ashlee come in and do a show and talk about investing for youth, because it's so important. And I see it now, and I can tell you that when I meet with people who are 40, 45, 50, whatever, and in that age, they always say to me after we talk, geez, I wish I had somebody that told me this when I was 20 or 25. Because the change in what the value of the investment would be significant. The compound effect is huge when you take a 15-year factor of what that money could have grown. And people don't realize that $30 or $20 or $50 a month, whatever it is, it grows exponentially as you keep reinvesting it. And there's so many people that I've talked to that they think, oh man, well, how different my life would have been had somebody your age known what they know, what you know now. And now you're going to be able to share it with a lot of people your age and a lot of our listeners, frankly, around the world. And all the ideas, they all fit. It doesn't matter if you're in Canada, where we are, if you're in the United States, if you're in Australia, if you're in Hong Kong, if you're in Europe, it makes no difference. The concept is the same. and the mindset for investing is the same. And that's what Ashlee's going to help all the young people really get get focused on. So Ashlee, tell us, share with us what you've been doing and where you're at now, because it's been a few months since we talked to you.
Yeah, so since I was on the show last, I graduated. So my official, I guess you can call it a ceremony, it was online because of the pandemic, but that was last week. And so since then I've been working full time with the Correctional Service of Canada, actually. And I've been really enjoying that. But I was really excited when you reached out and asked about, becoming more involved with the podcast, because like you said, there's a lack of conversation around investing and investing young. And most people my age, there's this mindset, I like the way you said it, there's a mindset towards, money's a bad word, like it's something you shouldn't talk about, it's something to be feared. But it's really not. And it's, it's an easy thing to, once you understand it, and once you have the mindset that, you can know your stuff, as you phrased it, it becomes a lot easier, and, you can reach that potential and that lifestyle that you want. So when you asked me about that, I was really passionate about making sure, not only people my age, but people older who didn't start investing young, or people younger than me who want to start investing, that they have something, some form of resource that they can rely on for that information.
Absolutely. And congratulations. That's so exciting for you. Got the first degree under your belt.
Yes. Yeah. There's more to come, but
more. Oh yeah. More work. You just get warmed up, but it's always nice to get the first one, because then it feels like, you know what, you can do it. You're on your way. And the climb doesn't feel quite as tall when you've got the first one done.
Well, it's funny because, well, thank you. And it's funny because the whole time you're doing your degree, I don't know if this is the same for anyone else, but for me, you're 1 year closer, and, you got 2 years left, 1 year left. And then you hit it and you're like, I know that there's something that's going to come up. There's no way that, it's going to be this easy to graduate. It's just going to, but then, it did. And my ceremony happened. No one called me and said, you didn't meet your requirements or whatever. So I was thrilled, but yeah, like you said, it's the first one's a good one, it's out of the way now, and the rest seems like something I can just, walk nicely through, hopefully.
Yeah. And I think you're right, because that was the exact same thing when I was an undergrad. I thought, well, I'm never going to be able to do this. And then in your first year, you're like, I'm pretty sure I'm never going to make it to my fourth year. And then when you get to your fourth year, you're like, are they going to actually give me anything? Because I'm pretty sure there's going to be some reason why I don't get it. But then once you get it, then you just have this confidence, like, hey, actually, maybe it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
They don't take it away afterwards, thankfully.
Not yet. They haven't. I'm still waiting.
So that's exciting. And I'm super excited for you, because you'll be heading off to the next journey, which is the master's degree. And that's going to be a couple of years, isn't it?
Yeah, the program itself is 2 years, and I'm looking forward to that.
It'll fly by even faster.
Oh, I don't doubt it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting. So we're going to talk. So we're almost at our first break, actually, but we're going to talk tonight about you and the show that you're putting together, actually, for Financially Speaking, because you're going to be the captain of the ship, taking over and running the youth investing part of it. And hopefully we'll have you with part of our investment club. So I have, and I don't remember if I talked to you about it, so I'll just put you on the spot right now. We have an online investment club, Women Investment and Social Exchange, and it started 22 years ago in my living room, believe it or not. So it's like started when you were born. And we had just my girlfriends who were smart, educated women that didn't know anything about finances. And it actually started out, I thought it was going to be us trading stocks in a little club together. I thought that'd be fun. And then we first got together, they were all like, okay, teach me about stocks. I was like, maybe we should back up. So we backed up a little bit, and we started talking about really everything we talk about on the show here. Kinds of mortgages, how to save for your kids' education, bank fees, all that kind of stuff. And it's it got to be where it was too big in my living room. And I took a break from it because work got in my way. And I've had people ask me about it. So we relaunched it online. So I'll hopefully be able to talk you into coming on and sharing with them, because it's all about women and investing, and I think it'd be great to share with the youth message as well, because there's a lot of young women that need that for sure. So we'll take our first break, and now that I put her right on the spot, I'll give her like 15 seconds to think about it, and then we'll come back, and Ashlee will be our co-host for the night. She's here all night. So if there's any questions for her, you're welcome to share them in the chat room. But like I mentioned at the beginning, on our YouTube channel, I get comments and questions from there. I reply to every one of them. And if anyone has any questions for Ashlee as well, she will get the message. I will make sure of it, because I'll make sure to share that with her. So if there's any questions or comments or anything, just feel free to reach out and share that with us. And absolutely we'll get back to you. So don't go anywhere. We have Ashlee all night, and you are listening to Financially Speaking on the Inspired Choices Network. Tonight you have two hosts. You have myself, Cathy Cook-Noble, and our new youth investing advisor, Ashlee Quinn-Hogan. We'll be right back.
Too many of us get caught up in the unreal lives of reality television and complete to acquire stuff, which is setting us up to accumulate lots of debt. We're scared, confused, and don't know who to talk to. By tuning into Financially Speaking radio show with financial advisor and educator Cathy Cook-Noble, you'll learn tips you can use to improve your financial health, which in turn can improve your overall health and make for a very happy life. Live a life you can afford and enjoy. It is possible. Listen for Financially Speaking radio show every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Mountain, and 1 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. This is the Financially Speaking Show with financial advisor and educator Cathy Cook-Noble. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Cathy@bookkeepplus.ca. Now back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. You are listening to Financially Speaking on the Inspired Choices Network, and your co-hosts tonight are myself, Cathy Cook-Noble, and Ashlee Quinn-Hogan. Ashlee is joining our show. She will be our youth investment advisor, and she's going to be sharing a lot of information and answering questions that people have in her age category, where they can start looking at investing and learning more about finances. But I know that the same stuff that she talks about in her age bracket applies to people all the way along in every age bracket. It's really a lot of the key concepts. The beauty of it is, for them, they have a lot more time on their side, which is always great for compounding. So Ashlee, I'm going to turn it over to you and share with us a little bit about what we have in store for the show.
Yeah, thank you. With the show, my main goal is to, reach out to people my age, younger, older, sort of anyone who's interested in learning. My main focus is on, people that fit into my cohort, those young 19, 20, 25-year-olds that, either have minimal experience or no experience, or maybe they have, an explicit amount of experience. But I want to, channel them and, let them know that, money management and investing isn't a scary thing. And it's not something that you want to wait until later, you want to put off until down the road. As you were saying, the beauty of compound interest, and young people, we have, our age on our side, we have time on our side, where if we don't know what we're doing right now, that's absolutely fine, because, we've got, 60, 70, 80 years, to figure it out. And I think that, my goal is to make sure that we can figure it out together, and we can figure it out sooner rather than later. And so, a couple of the things I want to look at, throughout my episodes is, easy ways to start. So like you mentioned at the beginning of the show, tracking your money, budgeting. They seem like scary finance words, but they're things that are really easy to do. Tracking, the amount of money you're spending every month and the amount of money you have coming in. And, with students and young people who, they don't have an established career, they don't have a profession that's bringing in a lot of money. How can you balance that, lack of income to make up for, the $700 a year you're spending on coffee because you're buying coffee every day? How can we counteract that, and how can you notice it? Because if you're not keeping track of it, that $1.89 doesn't seem like a lot, but at the end of the year, if you've been doing that every day, that's like $700 ish that you've been spending on coffee, where it could have gone into something else, right? So that's one of the main things I want to talk about, and with that comes student loans. That's the elephant in the room, because it's all fine and dandy to say you're going to get an education, which is fantastic. But then comes, you graduate. I'm in that boat this year. I graduated. I'm fortunate that I'm continuing my education, and I'm very grateful for that. But for those people who if they stop after their undergrad, or they've already finished their graduate or their PhD or whatever, they have this burden of this massive student debt that falls into their lap. And if they have no money management, or they don't know anything about finance and investing to help them when that time comes, it's a lot to carry. So I guess, I don't know, I'll ask you too, Kathy. What is your opinion on sort of this student debt and how people can get ahead of it? Because that's something I'd be interested in talking about too when the time comes.
So there's a couple of schools of thought on that, and usually when I talk to people about education, now for full disclosure, I'm a huge fan of education. I spent a lot of years in postgraduate and grad school and postgrad, and I love school. I'm always learning and taking courses, and I think everybody always should be and is in some form or another, not necessarily through a university, but there's lots of ways to learn and get educated. The challenge is, and if you have for people who want to go to university, and it's not cheap. In Canada, university is the same concept as college in the United States. They don't necessarily use the term university because we have two different levels here in Canada. But university is the same as going to college in the United States. What happens is you look at it and you think, okay, what am I gonna come out with at the end of this? You're gonna come out with a degree in whatever, and what kind of job prospect or what kind of field am I going to go into with that, and what kind of income does that particular job make? And then you look at it and you say, okay, it's going to cost me X amount of dollars, and when I come out, I'm going to make this amount of money. However, if I didn't go to school, what kind of job am I going to get, and how much money am I going to make? And there's been a lot of times, and I've seen with younger people, where they go to school because the parents expect it, and they don't necessarily like it. They didn't necessarily want to do it. And they end up taking something that they don't use out in the real world. They graduate and they have this piece of paper that they don't do anything with. And they end up making money that they could have made without the education. So when I look at that, I'm like, okay, I mean, I get it. A lot of parents, they want to push their kids through school. And a lot of the times it's not the right thing to do. So you have to look at whether or not school is the right thing, the right path for that person to take. Now, if they're going to take that path, then you have to evaluate, what's going to be the projected outcome for finances, right? Obviously, you don't want to take a job where you could make $20 an hour without the education, and you're going to make $20 an hour after the education, and all you've done is incur this big chunk of debt. Now, having said that, for those that have gone through school and they do have this big chunk of debt, we look at, you have, depending on how you got the debt, what the interest rate is. So we have stuff in Ontario known as OSAP, the Ontario Student Assistance Program. And the interest rate there's a federal portion, then we have a provincial portion. So we look at what's the interest rate. So can we get a line of credit that's lower than that interest rate to pay it off so we can save on the interest? Now, in some cases, you have certain period of time, like 6 months to start paying it back before you have to pay any interest on it. So you have a 6-month interest-free period. And maybe that's the time where you have a chunk of money saved up and you're like, okay, now that before the interest kicks in, I can put that down on that. Or you put a plan in place to say, I'm going to be able to pay X amount of dollars every month, and I'm going to have it paid off in this time. And it literally gets worked into your cash flow. So you know that it's part of your, and I say budget, most people will kind of cringe because they don't like that word, but you're tracking your cash, right? So you know every month you got $200 or $300 payment coming out for your education. And with that, I think you have to be very aware that you have this and you have to get the education to do something for you. So you have to use it. So you need to qualify for a job that somebody without that education wouldn't. That's the way I look at it, because you need to know, it's a psychological thing as well as a financial thing. You need to know that education is being put to use. And for people, once you get through to that part of it, then the income should justify the education. But there's a lot of people I've seen and they're in their 40s and they still have a student loan. And that's because they didn't budget for it. They get to defer stuff and they're not tracking stuff. And I'm like, you've had 20 years to pay something back on this and you really haven't done anything. So now you have to pay attention. And it's just like you said with the coffee, you have to pay attention. The student loan's no different. If you're not paying attention to it, then the interest just keeps growing and you never really get anywhere. And it stays on your credit record and it's going to affect you getting a house or getting a car or whatever credit you're going to be going for. So yeah, I think student debt, it can be an asset in the sense that you got the education and you're going to get a higher paying job that somebody else wouldn't get without the education, but you still have to pay it back and people have to be aware of it all the time. So it's got to be top of mind in your cash flow to say, it's got to get paid and pay it down as fast as you can, just like anything else, and I just look at the interest rate to say, if you're paying 5% on that loan and you're paying 8% on a second loan for it, I like to knock down the highest interest rate first. Some people psychologically like to knock off the payment so they feel like they paid something off, and that's fine too. It just depends on, how people have their mindset for it. But does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's great because, like you said, you have to be aware of, you can't just, like the coffee, right? You can't just, pay $1.89 every day and expect that not to compound at the end of the year. The same way student loan compounds when you have an 8% interest or 5% interest or whatever the case is. But what's important is, not to be scared of it, not to not go to university because you're scared of having debt. It's, once you have the knowledge, you can manage it so much better. Your mindset changes. So, how can, part of this podcast series is going to be, how can I show people that, it's okay if you don't have the money to go to university right now. Take OSAP, take whatever loans are available to you, and set yourself up so at the end of your degree, you can pay those back and you don't have to worry about it. And I think a lot of people are fearful of that. But it's something to consider, and it's something that I'm hoping to bring knowledge about, in the coming episodes. But I do realize that it's almost time for our second break. So with that, when we return, I guess we'll get into a little bit more of what my series and my episodes are going to focus on. But for now, I guess we'll head into our break. And you're listening to Inspired Choices with both myself and Kathy tonight on the Inspired Choices Network. And like I said, when we'll return, we'll touch on some more, some more topics that I'm going to be getting into.
Too many of us get caught up in the unreal lives of reality television. and complete to acquire stuff, which is setting us up to accumulate lots of debt. We're scared, confused, and don't know who to talk to. By tuning into Financially Speaking radio show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook-Noble, you'll learn tips you can use to improve your financial health, which in turn can improve your overall health and make for a very happy life. Live a life you can afford and enjoy. It is possible. Listen for Financially Speaking radio show every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Mountain, and 1 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Money is complicated, right? Actually, no, it's not. You don't have to be a trader on Wall Street to get a handle on your money. TV shows often instill fear to keep you believing you can't understand it or do anything yourself. If dealing with your finances brings up a lot of other F words, then you need to read All Ladies Should Use the F Word, A Guide to Loving Your Finances by Kathy Cook-Noble. Kathy helps you take control of your finances and leave the other F word, fear, in the dust.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is the Financially Speaking Show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook-Noble. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Kathy@bookkeepplus.ca. Now back to the program.
All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm Ashlee Quinn-Hogan, and I'm a co-host for tonight alongside, as always, Kathy Cook-Noble here on the Inspired Choices Network. Before we went to break, we were just chatting briefly about student debt and student loans and sort of, what I'll be touching on in my upcoming series. But yeah, we were talking about how, it's the mindset you have towards student debt and education that can make a world of difference when you graduate or throughout your academic career. And one other thing that, I'd like to touch on in the upcoming episodes that I'm going to brief over here quickly is how do you manage your money as a student? And, everyone's focused on getting ahead, but when you're a student and you don't have an income and you have this debt that's sort of just lingering overhead, how can you become, an investor, or how can you get ahead, so to speak? And so Kathy, like, what are your thoughts for students on, you're unemployed, you're a student, or you're working minimum wage maybe, and you have, this debt that's sort of lingering. How do you go about managing your money that way, and making sure you have more coming in than going out?
So I find that it's going to be the same as if you're 40 years old and you're working in the same job for the last 10 years. It really is about being aware. So, and once you're aware of where your money is going and coming from, then you plan for it. So one of the and I'll probably not get the quote right, but Warren Buffett said that you save your money first and you invest it, and whatever's left over is what you spend. So you put your investing as part of your plan. So if you're making minimum wage and you've just graduated from school, for example, and you've got a student debt, and you're going to know whether or not you have to pay for room and board or an apartment rent or whatever the case is. You know what your housing costs are going to be. And I'll give you an example. So we have, Ashlee, I have 4 kids, and and our son is same age as you, actually. He's 20, well, I think he's 22. So what we did with him was we said, he said to us the one night, and we did it as a joke, like, obviously, I talk about money all the time. So in our house, we talk about it all the time. It's not a mystery. It's not taboo. Nobody gets in trouble if they talk about, hey, should I be buying this, or does this make sense? And we talk to each other about those kind of things. And I think that's important, healthy conversation. So with Spencer, we had a moment where he was at home and he had finished school. And he said to us the one night, he said, all my parents' friends are making my buddies pay room and board because they're all working and they're making an income and they're still at home. And I looked at Todd and I said, that's a great, and we had never talked about this. And I said, well, that's just a great idea, but I think we should do it a little bit differently. And we made it kind of funny. And he's like, oh man, you're going to make me invest my money. And I said, yes, I am. So instead of, as a parent, we have that ability to say, instead of charging you room and board, we're going to make you put some money aside every week, but that money is going to go into your future. So that goes into your investment. So he's planned it out. He knows how much he has to pay back on whatever it is that he owes. And he also knows that that's just a line item that he pays every week, and he does it weekly because compounding weekly is even faster, and you can grow your money faster, and you have basically twice the time if you're doing it weekly rather than monthly, right? Actually 4 times the time. But so he does it that way, and it's just natural to him. So now he knows whatever he makes, he accounts for. He's got his own condo now. So he accounts for whatever it costs him for his rent. He knows what it costs him for his vehicle payment. He knows what it costs him for groceries approximately. But his investment is part of a fixed cost. So every month you have to pay, and this is how you break it down. I have to pay my rent or my mortgage. I have to. I have to pay my insurance on my car. I have to pay my car payment if I have one. And I have to pay my investment. Now, if you have a student loan, you have to pay your student loan. So these are the things that go in the have to pay column. These are fixed. Now, what is not fixed is how many times you go out, whether or not you go see a band play or go to a movie, because that's just starting to open up. But in real world, like, this has been a special time with COVID, but in reality, we're all going to be back out and participating in sports events and all that stuff. So you can control how many times you go to the hockey game. You can control how many times you eat out. You can control how much you buy in groceries because of the food that you buy. Those are the parts that you sacrifice, if you want to say sacrifice. But I like to think it's just managed better. But that's the part. So he knows, and this is one of the areas that he's been very good at, is he knows that at the end of the month, those fixed things, and that includes his investment, that gets paid. If at the end of the month he's a little bit short, then he's not going out with his buddies Friday and Saturday night. He might only be going Saturday night. And that's how he does it. And I think that's the easiest way for anybody to do it. Just set it up and say, I have to pay my mortgage, pay my car, pay my insurance, pay my investment. That's how it is. And pay my student loan or my line of credit, whatever it's called in their particular case. Those things are the must-have pays. Everything else you can negotiate. And I think that makes it easier for people because they know, okay, right off the bat, I have, $1,000 a week that I'm getting or whatever the number is, and I have to put $300 towards rent and this. Okay, so my first paycheck goes towards my fixed costs, and then my second paycheck might have a little bit left over, and that goes towards my variables where, now I go get, maybe I don't buy all the, different types of potato chips when I go to the grocery store. Maybe I only get to buy 1 bag this month. And that's the kind of stuff that you look at. Or maybe I have to take my lunch 4 days a week instead of 5 because I can afford to go out with the guys on Friday for lunch, or the staff, or, whatever the case is. So you have some flexibility once you know exactly what these are my fixed costs. And then anything after that, you can negotiate.
Yeah, and I like that you said, the way that it has to be considered, like, this is a necessary thing to include your investments in that. Because I think that a lot of people, especially young people, think that you know, car insurance, rent, you know, textbooks, tuition, those things fall into, you know, you have to pay those. And whatever I have left after I, you know, go to, you know, the bar 3 days a week, or, you know, after I go to 17 concerts this summer, that's what I'll invest, you know. But it's, like you said, a shift in that mindset to say, if investing is really important and you want to set yourself up for success later on, that's a must. And I know that's one for me that it's always been a must. So it's, you know, it just becomes one of those things that you absolutely have to do something with this, you know, this month or this quarter or what have you, so that later on, you know, you have it a little bit easier. Because, you know, I say it all the time, but, you know, it's either hard now and easy down the road, or you can take the easy way out now and go to the bar 3 nights a week, but you're going to have a hell of a time later on if you've been spending your money that way. And for young people, it's, you know, it's, I know you said budget's a scary word, but okay, tracking your money, it's not that hard. You know, the way I like to do it is Excel. It's, you know, it's going to be your best friend, you know, in the world of finance, but opening it up can even be something easy. Write down, you know, all the income you know you have coming in that month. So whether it's, you know, from OSAP or from a part-time job or from a full-time job, or, you know, whatever the income is, write that down. And an easy way that I break it down is I use the 50-30-20 rule, which is 50% of that is going towards necessities. So groceries, rent, car insurance, tuition, investing. 30% of that is going towards, you know, those luxury things, you know, how many times I, you know, can go out for lunch with a coworker, or, you know, how many beers I can get after work, or whatever. 30% of that income, you know, is going to go towards that. You don't want to say 0%, because, you know, life's meant to be enjoyed as well. And restricting yourself is not going to do any favors. So 30% is a fair number. So, you know, I plug 30% into there, and that leaves 20% for savings, is what, you know, I call it. And that 20% is, you know, it's a non-negotiable. It's, you know, 20% of what I bring in every single month is going into savings of some form. So whether that's short-term savings for, you know, a potential, you know, mishap down the line, whether it be, you know, the car breaks down, or, you know, whatever the case is, or whether that's, you know, I have enough sitting in my bank account right now to manage that. So this 20%, in my case, is going to Kathy so that she can, you know, put it away for me. And, you know, later on down the road, I have that to fall back on. So yeah, so that's an easy way that I do it. And I do that every single month. And I can, you know, attest that it's not a hard thing to do. Kathy, I don't know, what are your, do you think that budgeting is a difficult thing to do for young people, or?
I don't, and I love that you do it that way, because that's very easy to understand and very easy to do. And it fits with one of my favorite quotes, and I say it all the time, and I'm kind of annoying about it, but I always say it's easier to be 100% committed. And it simply means if you don't eat red meat, you never eat red meat. It's not like, well, maybe I'll have a steak tonight, even though I'm vegetarian. No, you never eat it. So it's easy. So when people say, do you want a hamburger or do you want a steak? You say, no, thanks. I don't eat red meat. It's easy to do. And I think if you approach your budget the same way, it's easy to be 100% committed. You do it perfectly. It's 50% goes towards what I have to pay. I got 30% that goes towards enjoying my life. And then I got 20% that's going to my future. And I think it's a great way to break it down. So it's fantastic. I love that. I love it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's an easy way too. Like you said, that's the main component, is you're not going to throw, you know, something super difficult to a bunch of young people and say, here, follow this, you know, don't ever have any fun, save all of it for when you're 80 years old and you're going to be sitting in Florida doing whatever. Yeah, and that's something, you know, that I want to dedicate one or a couple of my episodes to, is, you know, this is the reason why tracking your money is important. This is why it's easy, and this is how you do it in an easy way that is, you know, understandable. And like you said, you can give 100% to. Yeah, I think it's just about time for our third break of the show. We're just flying flying right through it here. When we come back, I'll discuss a few more topics that I'm looking at covering in the upcoming weeks and months. But you're listening to Inspired Choices with both myself and Kathy Cook-Noble on the Inspired Choices Network. When we come back, we'll touch on a few more topics related to youth investing.
Too many of us get caught up in the unreal lives of reality television and complete to acquire stuff, which is setting us up to accumulate lots of debt. We're scared, confused, and don't know who to talk to. By tuning into Financially Speaking radio show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook-Noble, you'll learn tips you can use to improve your financial health, which in turn can improve your overall health and make for a very happy life. Live a life you can afford and enjoy. It is possible. Listen for Financially Speaking radio show every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Mountain, and 1 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is the Financially Speaking Show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook-Noble. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Kathy@bookkeepplus.ca. Now back to the program.
All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm Ashlee Quinn-Hogan, and I'm joined here with Kathy Cook-Noble, your usual host on the Inspired Choices Network. And before we went to break, we were just chatting briefly about budgeting and how easy and simplistic it can be as a young person, as an old person, as someone in between either of those two things. But, one of the other things that, I'd also like to chat about is I'm not discriminating, it's not focusing specifically on young people here, but for those of you who have children or have kids that are young adults, there's also a role to play when you're in that position for setting up, your child for success later on. You're not burdening them by teaching them about finance. And I think there's a stigma around finances. Adults don't want to burden their young children or their young adult children with worrying about money. But it's definitely not a burden. It's definitely helping them out. And I know, Kathy, you were just talking about your son Spencer and how his friend's parents and yourself and Todd were talking about paying rent or paying a portion of the rent once you have a part-time job, and that's something that a lot of parents would think, well, I would never burden my child with having to pay, heaven forbid, but it sets them up for success later on because they learn that I have this X amount of dollars I'm getting from this part-time job, but I know that I have to pay X amount of dollars to mom and dad every month to either invest for me or to put into some type of account for myself or whatever they're doing with it. So what do I have left over, and what's important for me to spend that money on. And so I know you talked about it a little bit already, Kathy, but for parents who are hesitant to or who have yet to sort of have that conversation with their kids or start to get their kids on the train of thinking that finance and budgeting and tracking your money is an important thing to do, what do you have to say as a parent to parents that are hesitant to start that?
I think you nailed it. It's about having opening up the conversation, having a conversation and not making it scary. And you don't have to know all the answers when you're a parent. Just like I don't have to know all the answers as a financial advisor. I have the ability to ask people and talk to people. You have, as a parent, the same thing. You can talk to other people. Why not ask other parents that you're friends with and say, hey, what do you do with your kids? I don't have any problem with a parent talking to their son or daughter and helping them learn about finances. And if they didn't have a solid understanding of it, this is the opportunity for them to learn with them and for them to help their kids to, exactly like you said, get themselves set up for success. I happen to be in the camp where I believe I want my kids to be smarter than me. I want them to do better than me. I want them to earn more than me. I have no issues with that. I'm like super excited to see that happen for them. I know there's some parents that are afraid to have their kids do better than them, maybe makes them look like they weren't as successful or whatever the case is. But I think that once parents get their mind, and it's a mindset thing again, once the parent gets their mind around the fact that you can learn as a family, and if you help your kids, if you charge them room and board, rent, whatever, so be it. That's what, your rules are in your house. Okay, fine. If you just set it aside or however you're doing it, you're setting them up. You're getting them in the habit. And either way, they're going to be successful if you talk about it. So I think you're 100% right on. It's not scary, and it's not taboo. You're allowed to talk about money and learn together.
Absolutely. And that's the thing too, is, as young people, we get into this mindset that, well, we don't have to worry about it yet. That's mom and dad's job to take care of us. But then on the opposite side, you have mom and dad saying, well, I don't want to burden my child with this, or maybe they haven't learned it themselves because they were that young adult that said, I'll worry about this later. And then, becomes later, and later never comes until you're 70 years old and you have, all of this debt, and have no knowledge of investment. And so it's a learning opportunity for both young adults or teenagers or whatever it is that you are or you have, and the parents or grandparents or aunts or uncles or whatever relationship you are. It's never too early to start learning about investing, but it's also never too late. So I know I'm talking about starting young and how good it is to start young. You don't have to be young to start. It's equally as good to start right now, no matter, because you'll never be younger than you are, in this minute right now. So, waiting 5 years is not going to help you if you're 40 years old and you haven't started yet. Don't let me fool you. It's not, you don't have to start young to be successful, but it's a lot easier to be successful if you do. So yeah, I don't know, Kathy, if you have any final thoughts on that, but.
No, I think you're exactly right. And people who hesitate to get started, they usually regret it. They usually wish they had started earlier. And I always tell people, you can't play coulda, woulda, shoulda. You just have to start right now. And you put the plan in place, you stick to it, you make the habit, and you work on your mindset to keep it in force. And you sometimes need someone like, you and me to make them accountable. So, you just keep them on track. And I don't mean accountable in a bad way. Like nobody ever gets in trouble. So, if you're supposed to save $100 this month, and you saved $80 instead of $100, it's still a win. So, you be successful as you keep learning and you keep educating yourself. So you're 100% right on. I'm just going to tell you, I'm really looking forward to your shows and seeing you on Financially Speaking as the host. And I'm excited to hear, how we're going to save the world and financially, especially with the youth. And you're right, though. It's your focus. I say you with the youth, but we're focusing on everybody that needs the financial help.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the youth is just one cohort that, is meaningful to me because I'm one of them. Not necessarily, they don't have to be students. They could be, youth that are in high school or youth that, are working or what have you, that are already in the workforce. But the bottom line is, whether you're 15, 25, 45, if you have yet to start investing, now is the time to do so. And, my goal here is to help those of you who have either not started or you're thinking about starting, or you have started, but you don't really know, you don't really know your stuff yet, how we can go through that journey together, and how we can, really, really, really start to talk more about it. And I'm so grateful that Kathy brought me on tonight. I'm looking forward to having some more episodes in the future.
Thank you for choosing to listen to Financially Speaking Radio Show. Kathy Cook-Noble will return next Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 3 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Mountain, and 1 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, have the best week of your life by making the choices that bring you all that you desire.